When someone with an avoidant pattern comes back into your life, it stirs something deep inside you. Part of you lights up with hope. Maybe this time will be different. Another part of you tightens, remembering the pain, the distance, the confusion. But before you say a word, before you react, pause. Because this moment is sacred. This is not about them. This is about you and who you've become in their absence. You've spent time rebuilding your sense of worth, learning that love isn't about chasing or convincing. You've learned to sit with your emotions, to hold space for yourself, so when they return, you're not the same person they once walked away from. You've grown roots, you've found peace in your own presence, and now you have a choice. The avoidant returns when they feel a shift, when your energy no longer seeks them, when you stop needing their validation to feel complete. They come back not because you called them, but because your strength calls them to witness a thing unfamiliar, your power. So when they reach out, do not rush to fill the silence. Do not hand them your heart before they've earned the right to hold it again. Instead, stand still in your truth. Breathe. Listen not just to their words, but to your intuition. Because energy doesn't lie. It reveals everything words conceal. Respond from your highest self. That means no anger, no proving, no begging. You don't need to explain how much you've changed. Let your peace speak for you. You don't need to make them understand your worth. Your calm presence is already teaching that lesson. If you choose to reconnect, do so from a place of clarity, not longing. Set boundaries that honor both your heart and your growth. Boundaries are not walls. They are gates. They let love in, but only the kind that's ready to stay. And if you sense that they're still running still, hiding from intimacy, bless them and let them go. Because love without readiness isn't love. It's attachment wearing a disguise. You don't chase it anymore because you understand your peace is the highest form of love you can give yourself. This moment, their return, is your test. Will you fall back into old patterns of overgiving, over-explaining, over-hoping? Or will you rise into your power, knowing that love rooted in fear cannot grow? Respond with grace. Respond with presence. Respond as the person who no longer seeks validation but embodies value. You are not here to convince anyone to choose you. You are here to become the kind of person you would never abandon. So when an avoidant comes back, remember, it's not about the past repeating. It's about you proving to your soul that you finally learned the lesson. Let your response be your declaration: I am whole. I am ready. I choose peace over pain and growth over the illusion of love. Because when you respond from your highest self, you don't just transform the relationship, you transcend it. And that's where true freedom begins. When an avoidant comes back into your life, your first instinct might be to react, to speak from emotion, to respond from the ache of the past, or to finally release everything you held back. You might feel the pull to express your hurt, your confusion, or even your hope that this time will be different. But in that very moment, your true test begins. Because power does not live in reactivity, it lives in response. It lives in consciousness. It lives in your ability to stay centered when your heart wants to rush back into the storm. The avoidance return can awaken all your old triggers. You might remember the moments of withdrawal, the emotional distance, the walls that left you feeling unseen. And as those memories surface, your body reacts before your mind can even catch up. Your heart races, your guard goes up, your thoughts spiral. This is where most people lose their ground. They let the emotional storm dictate their next move. But reacting from emotion means giving your power away to the past. Responding from awareness means reclaiming it. When you pause before reacting, you reclaim your authority. You take a breath and recognize that this isn't the same moment it once was. You are not the same person you were when they left. You've done the work. You've learned to sit with discomfort without letting it define you. You've practiced letting go. And now, your response can come from a place of mastery, not memory. This is the difference between living in reaction and living in alignment. Responding consciously means stepping into your role as the creator of your experience. It means asking yourself, what energy do I want to bring to this moment? What version of me do I want to lead this conversation? Because when you react, you operate from your wounds, from fear, from longing, from survival. When you respond, you operate from wisdom, from self-respect, from clarity, from purpose. The person who hurt you does not get to decide how you feel. You do. This doesn't mean suppressing emotion or pretending not to care. It means allowing those feelings to move through you without letting them control your choices. You can acknowledge your disappointment, your desire, even your curiosity, and still respond with grace. Stillness is not weakness, it's strength in its purest form. It says, I choose to move from power, not pain. Think of your response as a reflection of the work you've done within. When you were chasing understanding, your mind was in control. When you were yearning for closure, your heart was in control. But now, you've reached a new level, one where your spirit leads. Your response becomes an act of self-honor, not self-defense. You don't need to prove anything. You don't need to remind them of what they lost. You simply stand in who you are, calm, grounded, and whole. The avoidant often tests connection through distance. They withdraw to see who will chase. But when you respond with peace instead of panic, with roundedness instead of grasping, you disrupt that entire pattern. You show that love can exist without fear. You show that your presence is not dependent on their validation. And that shift can be powerful enough to change the dynamic, not just with them, but with every relationship that follows. When you respond from your highest self, you communicate on a soul level. Your energy says, I am no longer playing the old game. I have learned my worth. And whether they stay or leave again, you've already won because you've mastered yourself. That is what evolution looks like in relationships. Moving from reaction to reflection, from chaos to choice, from emotional dependence to emotional intelligence. So when they come back and the urge rises to demand answers or rekindle the old story, take a breath. Let silence speak first. Let your calmness become your power. Every pause is an act of strength. Every conscious breath is a declaration that you are no longer controlled by circumstance. Because when you choose to respond instead of react, you rise above the past. And that is where true freedom begins. When an avoidant comes back, it's easy to think their return means something profound, that they've finally realized your worth, that the story you long for is about to continue, that this time everything will be different. But if you look deeper, their return is not a rescue, it's a reflection. It's not a sign that you are waiting to be saved. It's a mirror showing you how much you've grown, how deeply you've healed, and how clearly you now see your own value. Life has a way of bringing people back, not to give you what you wanted, but to reveal who you've become. You see, when someone avoids intimacy or runs from connection, they're not rejecting you. They're avoiding the parts of themselves that fear vulnerability, closeness, and emotional exposure. Their return, then, isn't about their sudden transformation. It's about your energy shift. When you heal your attachment to needing them, when you stop chasing or waiting for closure, something changes energetically. You stop broadcasting desperation and start emanating peace. And peace is magnetic. That's often what draws the avoidant back. Not your words, not your effort, but your alignment. When they return, it's not a cue to lose yourself again in hope or expectation. It's an invitation to observe, to see the situation for what it is, a reflection of your own growth. The universe often tests our progress by reintroducing familiar patterns. But this time, you're meant to respond differently. You're meant to see that you no longer need to prove your worth through someone else's return. You no longer need to seek validation through their presence. You've learned that love is not about convincing. It's about connection that flows naturally, without fear. When you recognize their return as a mirror, you reclaim your power. You start asking deeper questions. What does this situation show? Am I about my healing? Am I reacting from the old version of me who needed them? Or am I responding from the grounded, whole version who knows their value? These questions help you navigate from wisdom rather than emotion. You begin to see that your peace, your emotional maturity, and your stability are what change the dynamic, not their sudden realization. And that's the beauty of growth sometimes. The very person who once triggered your deepest wounds becomes the mirror through which you witness your own transformation. Where you once would have begged for answers, now you listen calmly. Where you once would have sought their attention, now you give attention to your boundaries. Where you once felt powerless, now you feel centered. Their return becomes less about reconciliation and more about reflection, a spiritual checkpoint showing you that your healing is real. You don't have to analyze their motives or assume their intentions. Whether they come back out of guilt, curiosity, or genuine affection doesn't matter as much as what you see in yourself now. This moment is your mirror, showing you your capacity for compassion without losing discernment, your ability to love without abandoning yourself, and your willingness to stay open without compromising your peace. Recognizing their return as a mirror allows you to respond with wisdom instead of attachment. You can listen without absorbing. You can care without clinging. You can be present without losing presence with yourself. And when you can do that, you've already passed the test. Because emotional evolution is not about whether they stay. It's about whether you can stay true to yourself, regardless of what they do. So instead of seeing their return as a sign that something has been fixed, see it as proof that you've been transformed. You are no longer the same version of yourself that once needed their validation to feel whole. You can love them without losing yourself. You can see them clearly, not as the missing piece of your story, but as a character who helped you discover your strength. That's what it means to live consciously. That's what it means to be free. Their return is simply a mirror, and your reflection is what matters most. You've learned, you've grown, and you've awakened to your own light. You no longer chase love to feel worthy. You radiate worth and let love that matches it find you. When an avoidant comes back, the energy they bring is often cautious, uncertain, and testing. They don't return with full openness. They return with one foot still on the brake. They're trying to see if it's safe, if you've changed, if they've changed, if the space between you feels less threatening than before. And in that moment, the way you respond determines everything. You can either meet their uncertainty with emotional chaos and fear, or you can meet it with calm confidence, a presence so grounded that it teaches them without words that you no longer need them to validate your worth. This is where emotional mastery is tested, because the avoidance pattern thrives in reaction. When they sense anxiety, pressure, or urgency from you, they retreat. It reaffirms their fear that closeness equals losing control. But when you remain calm, composed, and rooted in self-respect, you disarm that fear. You show them, and more importantly yourself, that connection doesn't have to mean surrendering your peace. It can mean two whole people meeting in truth, not need. Calm confidence is not about acting detached or pretending not to care. It's about knowing that your happiness doesn't depend on the outcome. You can still love them, still listen, still care, but from a place of strength, not survival. It's saying, I'm open to see where this goes, but I'm also grounded enough to walk away if it no longer aligns with my growth. That balance is powerful because it communicates emotional safety. It says, I'm not here to chase you or fix you. I'm here to connect authentically. Your energy teaches people how to treat you. If your energy says, I'm anxious, please stay, they feel the pressure. But if your energy says, I'm peaceful, and I choose connection only if it honors both of us, they feel the difference. That's when relationships shift, when you stop operating from fear and start standing in faith. Faith in yourself, faith in your boundaries, faith that what is meant for you will remain without force. Avoidants often confuse intensity with danger. They withdraw because they associate closeness with losing autonomy. But when you approach them with calm confidence, you give them a new experience. You model emotional safety. You show them that connection doesn't have to feel suffocating. It can feel secure, grounded, and free. Your energy becomes the space where their fear starts to loosen, not because you chased, but because you embodied stillness. To lead with calm confidence, you must first regulate yourself. That means before responding, you check your energy. Are you speaking to prove something? Are you reacting out of fear of losing them again? Or are you responding from a place of self-respect and inner strength? Calmness doesn't mean indifference. It means clarity. It means you're aware of your emotions, but not controlled by them. You express what you feel, but without losing your center. And here's the truth. The calmest person in the room holds the most power, because calmness is contagious. When you respond with grounded energy, it forces others to meet you there. Your steadiness becomes their mirror. They can feel your authenticity, your maturity, your peace, and whether they admit it or not, that draws them closer. Because what every human being seeks at the deepest level is safety. If they are still inconsistent, if their actions still don't align with their words, your calmness will help you see it clearly. You won't try to twist the truth to fit your desire. You'll recognize patterns for what they are and act from wisdom, not wishful thinking. Calm confidence allows you to stay compassionate but not foolish, open but not unguarded, kind but not naive. It keeps you in control of yourself, regardless of what they do. So when they come back and you feel that familiar pull to explain, to fix, to prove, take a breath, slow down. You don't need to rush the process or force clarity. Let them feel the steadiness in your tone, the peace in your presence. That's the energy of someone who has healed. That's the vibration of self-worth. You don't need to demand respect. Your calmness commands it naturally, because true power isn't loud, it's quiet. It's not in trying to win them back. It's in showing that you've already won yourself. When an avoidant comes back, your first instinct might be to protect yourself completely, to build walls, to guard your heart so tightly that nothing can reach it again. After all, you've been hurt before. You know the pain of emotional distance, the confusion of mixed signals, the heartbreak of being left wondering if love was ever real. But true power lies not in building walls, but in creating boundaries. A wall shuts everything out, even love. A boundary lets love in, but only the kind that respects your peace. That's the art of emotional mastery. Protecting your energy without closing your heart. Boundaries are not punishment. They are clarity. They're not about controlling another person. They're about defining what's healthy for you. When an avoidant returns, you must be clear on what you will and will not accept. Not from fear, but from self-respect. The version of you that once tolerated inconsistency no longer exists. The version of you that once chased, explained, or settled has evolved. Your boundaries are not walls of defense. They are expressions of love for yourself. When you communicate your boundaries, you do it from calm, not anger. You don't need to say, "You hurt me, so I'm done." You can say, "I value Xixian, but I also value consistency. I'm open to rebuilding, but it has to feel emotionally safe." That kind of truth comes from power, not pain. It's not confrontational, it's clarifying. And people who are emotionally mature will respect that clarity, because it shows that you know your worth. Avoidants often fear being trapped or controlled. When you build walls, it reinforces that fear. They feel rejected before they can even connect. But when you set healthy boundaries, you create an open yet structured space. They sense your openness, but also your strength. They see that they can't cross lines, but they're still welcome to approach with honesty. That balance is magnetic. It's rare. It makes people feel safe and accountable at the same time. Boundaries are not just about what you say, they're about what you do. You teach people how to treat you through your consistency. If you say you won't tolerate emotional distance but continue engaging with it, your words lose power. But if you calmly step back when behavior no longer aligns with your peace, your actions speak for you. You don't need to shout, explain, or justify. Your silence becomes your strength. Your distance becomes your declaration that you value yourself more than you fear losing someone. And this isn't just about relationships, it's about energy. Protecting your emotional energy means refusing to carry what isn't yours. If the avoidant is still confused, still inconsistent, still unsure, you don't take that personally anymore. You recognize that their journey is their own. You can care without carrying their weight. You can empathize without absorbing their emotions. That's the power of boundaries. They let you love someone without losing yourself in their chaos. You can be kind and still say no. You can be loving and still walk away. You can be open-hearted and still grounded in self-worth. Boundaries give love structure. They define the shape it can safely take. Without them, love becomes chaos. With them, love becomes sacred. You no longer operate from the fear of abandonment because you've learned to stay with yourself. You know that love built on guilt or fear will never last. Only love rooted in mutual respect and emotional safety can thrive. When you set boundaries, you create a new vibration in your relationships. You stop attracting chaos and start inviting alignment. You stop trying to convince people to meet your needs, and instead, you attract those who naturally do. The avoidant might not understand it immediately, but your strength teaches through energy. Your boundary becomes a mirror, showing them what emotional maturity looks like. So when they come back, keep your heart open, but keep your standards high. You don't have to prove you're healed by pretending not to care. You prove it by standing firm in your peace. You can say, "I still care about you, but I won't abandon myself to have you." That's not rejection. That's self-love in motion. That's how you build connection that's real, not through walls of fear, but through boundaries of grace. When an avoidant comes back, one of the greatest traps is the urge to control what happens next. You want to know why they left, what changed, what they're thinking, what their intentions are now. You want answers, clarity, closure, something that makes sense of the confusion they left behind. But the truth is, control is the illusion that keeps you trapped in emotional turbulence. You can't control their readiness, their awareness, or their pace of healing. What you can control, fully, completely, and powerfully, is how you respond. That's where your strength lives. That's where peace begins. The human mind is wired for control. When we don't understand something, we try to make it make sense. We analyze their behavior, dissect every message, interpret every silence. But that keeps you anchored to their energy instead of your own. Control is the ego's way of protecting you from uncertainty. But uncertainty is where growth lives. When you stop trying to manage how they show up, you create space for truth to reveal itself naturally. You allow life, not fear, to guide what happens next. Seeking understanding is different from seeking control. Understanding comes from curiosity, from wanting to see things as they are, not as you wish they were. Control comes from fear, the fear of getting hurt again, of being abandoned again, of reliving the pain of loss. But when you approach the situation with understanding, you can listen without defending. You can observe without attaching. You can hold compassion for their struggles without excusing behavior that doesn't serve your peace. You begin to see that the avoidance actions are not personal. They are patterned. They withdraw not to hurt you, but to protect themselves from vulnerability. Their return doesn't necessarily mean they've changed. It often means something in them is seeking familiarity or safety. When you understand this, you stop romanticizing their behavior and start seeing reality clearly. And from that clarity, you can decide what's healthy for you, not from emotion, but from awareness. Understanding gives you freedom. Control gives you anxiety. The more you try to manage their behavior, the more you lose your own alignment. But when you choose understanding, you stay rooted in your truth. You don't need to force outcomes because you trust that whatever is meant for you cannot be taken. You stop asking, what if they leave again? And start affirming, if they do, I'll still be whole. That's real power. The power to stay centered no matter how unpredictable the external world becomes. When you let go of control, something magical happens. You reclaim your peace. You stop reacting to their inconsistency, and you start responding from your integrity. You begin to understand that love is not about fixing someone or proving your worth to them. It's about allowing both people to eat where they truly are. If they are still hiding, still avoiding, still running from intimacy, you can meet that with compassion, not control. You can say, I understand your fear, but I also honor my need for openness. That's not manipulation, that's maturity. You don't need to chase answers anymore. You don't need to demand explanations. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is accept that not everything needs to make sense right away. Some people's actions will remain unexplainable, and that's okay. Your peace doesn't depend on understanding every detail. It depends on accepting what is and trusting that the truth always reveals itself in time. When you surrender the need to control, you align with a higher wisdom, the wisdom of trust. You trust yourself to handle whatever unfolds. You trust life to bring you what's meant for you and remove what isn't. You trust that letting go doesn't mean losing. It means allowing space for what's real to grow. So when the avoider, NT, comes back, resist the temptation to manage their emotions or predict their next move. You don't need to convince them, decode them, or fix them. You simply need to remain true to yourself. Respond with awareness, not attachment. With curiosity, not fear. Because control seeks to protect your wounds, but understanding heals them. And in that healing, you find the strength to love with clarity, live with freedom, and let life unfold exactly as it's meant to. When an avoidant comes back, it's natural to feel that surge of emotion, the mix of hope, relief, and fear that floods your body all at once. A part of you still remembers what it felt like to be chosen, even briefly. But another part of you remembers the pain of disconnection, the distance, the confusion. And in that space between the two, you face a powerful choice. Will you seek validation from their return, or will you choose growth from the lesson? This is where transformation truly begins. Not in what they do, but in how. You rise. Choosing growth over validation means refusing to let someone else's attention define your worth. It means understanding that their return doesn't prove your value. Your healing already did that. The avoidance comeback is not a sign that you've won them back. It's a moment to prove to yourself that you finally won you back. It's about recognizing that you no longer need someone to choose you in order to feel chosen. You already choose yourself every day. You refuse to settle for half love. Validation feels good, but it's temporary. Growth feels uncomfortable, but it's eternal. Validation is the ego's way of saying, see, I was right to hold on. Growth is the soul's way of saying, now I understand why I had to let go. When you seek validation, you slip back into the same emotional loop that kept you trapped, reacting to their approval, fearing their withdrawal, and losing yourself in their inconsistency. But when you choose growth, you stand firmly in your awareness. You start to see the situation for what it is, not what you want it to be. This doesn't mean you have to reject the avoidant or close your heart completely. It means you interact from consciousness, not from craving. You can be curious, but not consumed. You can be open, but not dependent. You can engage from a place of emotional freedom, not emotional hunger. That's growth. It's when you stop asking, do they love me, and start asking, am I showing up as the person I've become? Every relationship, even the ones that hurt, carries a divine lesson. The avoidance role in your story was never to destroy your confidence. It was to awaken your awareness, to show you the parts of yourself that still sought love through external validation. Their absence forced you to turn inward. Their silence pushed you to listen to your own voice. And now, their return gives you a sacred opportunity to demonstrate that you've learned what your soul came here to learn. Self-worth that doesn't wave when others do. Choosing growth also means not slipping into old emotional habits. You don't have to chase them, convince them, or replay the same script hoping for a different ending. You can communicate clearly, you can stay open to connection, but you no longer compromise your peace to maintain it. If they've truly grown, they'll rise to meet you where you are. If they haven't, your strength will gently guide you to let go again, this time without breaking. That's growth in its purest form. The truth is, every soul connection is a mirror. The avoidant reflected your old wounds back to you, your need to feel seen, understood, and chosen. But now, you see it differently. You've become your own mirror. You validate yourself through your choices, your boundaries, your peace. And in doing so, you no longer chase the temporary warmth of someone's return. You embody the steady fire of self-love that never goes out. Growth means choosing evolution over repetition. It means learning to thank the past without reliving it. It means acknowledging the pain without letting it define you. It's when you stop needing proof that you are enough, because you already know you are. When you reach that place, you don't need anyone to come back to feel whole. If they do return, it's not to fill a void, but to witness your transformation. And whether they stay or go again, you remain unshaken, because your worth no longer depends on anyone's presence or absence. So when an avoidant comes back, let that be your final test, not of whether they've changed, but of whether you have. Do you need their love to feel complete, or can you love yourself through the uncertainty? Choosing growth means walking forward with grace, with compassion, but with unwavering strength. Because in the end, love may return to you in many forms, but the greatest one you'll ever experience is the love that awakens within, the one that never leaves. Thank you for walking this journey of growth and awareness with me. Your time and presence mean everything. Until we meet again, stay grounded, stay powerful, and never stop choosing your highest self.